for sure. But solid, solid on Cavs end. They did well. And what was it their first they gave up, or I guess we can transition into the other
So
teams too.
so Portland ends up giving up Derek Jones Jr. They give up their own 2022 lottery protected first, and they give up Denver's second round 2023 pick that they had the rights to.
Mhm.
And so that all goes back to the Bulls. And then Portland gets Larry Nance in return from the Cavs. So, it's a pretty interesting trade for Portland. I understand they don't have a ton of assets to trade around as they seem to be trading picks every year to just kind of make marginal moves to try and get over a little hump in the playoffs for Dame, but it never really results in much. I'm looking at 2 first round picks they traded for Robert Covington. They had made obviously done the Norman Powell trade recently
Uh-huh.
over Gary Trent, just marginal moves. And now they do this to bring in Larry Nance, who's actually a very solid player for them, obviously better than Derek Jones, but he's not the best player in this trade either. So,
Right. I think the Trailblazers definitely lost. I think they gave up a little too much for he could be their answer at power forward, assuming they put Norman Powell off the bench and it's like Dame, CJ McCollum, or Norman Powell. Not CJ and Covington. I guess they're gonna have to pick whether Powell comes off the bench or Covington's the three. I assume he's their starting power forward now. I mean, who would? I mean, you could put him off the bench and Covington at 4. I personally like Covington at the 3, but I think he's a really nice perimeter defender. One of the best at grabbing steals. He's averaged close to 2 the last 3 years. He's been solid on that end. Never developed as a shooter. Always been athletic. Um, he's shown last year and the year before he's starting to peeking into more playmaking. He's starting to get into that role. More like his former teammate, um, Julius Randle. Reminiscent of that, not nearly as good passing nor overall skill wise, but I think he's a solid piece. I think they gave up a first and Derek Jones Jr. is a little much. Not that Derek Jones Jr. is a massive asset, but uh airplane mode is certainly a decent asset for a team to have.
yeah, I mean, I think you're just looking at getting an upgrade at that power forward position because they obviously play the same position. But what does Derek Jones give you on defense that Larry Nance doesn't? I mean, Jones can hold his own a little bit there, but Nance in the end actually gets steals. He's active. He's quicker in transition, and he's a good teammate as well.
Smarter
So
player
that's
too.
he's a smarter player. So high IQ, and he worked hard over in Cleveland. He didn't really care about being the most popular player out there, but he was still a fan favorite.
Yeah, he's definitely better overall player than Derek Jones Jr. I think athleticism is maybe the only thing Derek Jones has on him. I don't know their shooting splits right off the top of my head, but I imagine they're similar. I don't
Yeah.
remember Derek Jones Jr. being that great of a shooter. I do think
No, I think
he probably has more volume.
I think Nance actually shot it and 36% from 3. So he actually put a couple attempts up, whereas Jones won't try it. It's less than 1 attempt per game.
Yeah. Okay. That makes sense, but still, it's obviously a desperate move for Portland. They're like, hey, we got to get any sort of talent. I mean, if when you look at it the way as just like, oh, they got a decent piece, but if you implicate the situation they're in with possibly losing Dame, if Larry Nance Jr. is your free agent for the offseason, not free agent, but big new asset, I don't know if that cuts it. I don't know how much better they'll be than last year, assuming, injuries might play a huge factor. If they're all healthy, they could make the conference finals again. That's the thing with the Portland Trailblazers. They have they have such a high ceiling and like a decent floor. Like it's so crazy to see where they're going to end up every year. Like
Yeah.
2 years ago, conference finals. This year, bounced in the first round.
I think they're hoping that Norman Powell takes a step up and has better chemistry now playing a full season this year with this team. And that maybe that's kind of their X factor, getting them further through the playoffs. And then adding Larry Nance as a guy who just helps solidify their lineup. Their top five is pretty good now with Dame, CJ, Norman, Covington, Nance, actually six, and then Nurkic as six. Obviously Nurkic wouldn't come off the bench, but as their six best players, I think that's not bad. They could use some more shooting, obviously. I think giving up Gary Trent sucked to be able to do that, but obviously Norman Powell's really good too. It just kind of depends on what you value more and who you think is going to break out more. I think Powell's a little more consistent right now, but Gary Trent might easily become the better player.
Yeah, he has a higher ceiling, definitely. But yeah, I think it was an all right move. If I had to give them a grade, I'll give them a B minus. If I had to give them a grade,
B minus. Thanks for trying, and hopefully this gets you, an A on the final here.
yeah,
That's what the teacher told. But